Hey everyone, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2020 Dr. Spotfire. My name's Neil. I'll be your Dr. Spotfire host for today. I see some new people trickling in, so I'm going to go ahead and start with some announcements. We got some quite a few things to talk about to kick off the new year, some changes that we've made to the program. Let me see, I already have something in chat. All right. Hey Andreas, Happy New Year to you too. Okay. So starting with some announcements, I first wanted to send a thank you to Anya Apralenko. She was our campaign coordinator behind the scenes. I know you guys may not have seen as much of her in the face-to-face on the sessions, but behind the scenes, she was a total rock star. She really helped make Dr. Spotfire what it is, and she's moved on to another role within TIBCO, so we're congratulating her on her new role. And with that, we are welcoming Jamie Russell to the team. Jamie's going to be our new campaign coordinator. And that brings our 2020 Dr. Spotfire crew to myself, Ninad Saway, Jamie Russell, and you can be joining us all year, first Tuesday of every month at 9 a.m. Pacific. Some other 2020 announcements, some quick things off the top. We worked through 2019 to make sure we could get the webinar recordings out faster. So those should be going out within 24 to 48 hours on YouTube directly. We are aiming to get the webinars shorter, so we're kind of keeping these feature sessions to 30 minutes. And we also realized that there's so much to talk about with Spotfire. Just having 12 webinars, once a month for the year just isn't enough. So we started doing those quick tips last year. We've improved our processes to help make sure we can try to keep up with the cadence. And so we're going to look forward to continuing that with you guys this year with the weekly quick tips. We've revamped our landing page on the TIBCO community, so you can check that out. And we're looking for better engagement with you guys. We're looking at how we can improve to better connect with you. You can see that I have a webcam on today. I have a better microphone. So we're looking at little improvements that we can use to better communicate with you. We're going to make the sessions a little more interactive. You'll see a poll today. We're going to be asking you guys questions, seeing what you think. We also have these social media groups, and Ninad's going to put those groups in the chat for you. You'll find a link to those as well on the community page. So those are really useful to kind of show you real quickly here why these might be useful for you. This is, for instance, the Instagram page we just started. And what we're doing is we'll put in little stories, little tips on like visualizations that we see on Instagram and some points that are related to Spotfire. Same thing with Twitter. There's all kinds of data science and data viz and BI going on Twitter. And we retweet things that we think are relevant to you guys as a Spotfire audience, whether it's using R, Python, visualization, what have you. And there's also just, the Reddit page, there's the LinkedIn group. I won't go through each of these, but we're looking to connect with you guys more. Feel free to join these groups. Feel free to follow us, ask us questions, and definitely make sure to join the community and ask your questions there as well with the hashtag Dr. Spotfire. So going back to my slides, we are gonna, what we decided to do with the Q&A is after the first 30 minutes of the session where we do the feature session, we're gonna stop the recording and we're gonna keep the Q&A running and keep that live. So if you guys want to ask questions, for those of you watching the recording, be sure to join the live session where you can ask questions to us and get your questions answered. So we're only doing the Q&A in the live part. Next announcement is we have more doctors in the house here in TIBCO. So the Dr. Spotfire program has been very useful for our Spotfire users. And for those of you looking to expand into more data science, we now have Dr. Data Science, which is using the TIBCO Data Science platform. So drag and drop workflows, advanced modeling. If you guys want to use those products, you can join that webinar. It's going to be the second Wednesdays of every month. The first one is on January 15th at 9 a.m. Pacific. And then for any users that might be using Jaspersoft or know anyone else in our organization using Jaspersoft, we also have started Dr. Jasper, and that's the first Thursdays of every month at 9 a.m. Now, lastly, we're growing very fast. So over 2019, we saw our regular attendees double. And because of this, we're going to kind of change our process with the questions that you guys ask. So you guys are still free to ask questions throughout the session as they come up. But if you can, please put it on the Q&A. You'll see that little Q&A icon. It looks something like what I have boxed in here. And that allows us to keep the responses tied to the questions. Last time with the chat, they were all getting kind of mixed up because there's so many questions, there's so many new attendees. So try to use that live Q&A, and we'll use the chat to communicate to you guys. And if you guys have general things for the whole group that aren't questions, you can use the chat for that. So, all right. So for today, I'm going to do Python data functions in Spotfire. I have Vinod Manamala, who is another data scientist on my data science team with me, and he is going to help answer questions as well. He'll be answering in the live Q&A throughout the session. Ninad Saway will also be answering questions in the live Q&A throughout the sessions, and Vinod may take some questions at the end of the webinar today. All right. So next up, I'm going to start with a poll. Before going into today's session, I want to get a sense of where you guys are and what you know about data functions and IronPython, what you've done with Python and Spotfire. So I'm going to launch this poll and give you guys a few seconds to go ahead and answer. Maybe we'll say like 15 seconds. Mainly, do you know what data functions are, and do you know what data functions are, and do you know what IronPython is? If you know what one it is, or you know both are, or none of them. All right, so it looks like the results are trickling in. I'm not sure actually if you guys can see these, but it looks like about half the people know what both data functions and IronPython is, and about 25% of people know what one is but not the other, and another 25% don't know what either one is. So gonna have a 50-50 split here. So I'm going to start with just quickly showing you what is IronPython. And IronPython is not going to be the focus of today's session, but I need to clarify what this is because when people see Python and Spotfire, they may get confused between Python data functions and IronPython. So IronPython is used to connect to the Spotfire API and to kind of control the Spotfire client. You can create custom behaviors in Spotfire. You can automate certain actions. And this is just to kind of control the application and kind of streamline the experience for users or shortcut things for yourself even. So as an example, what you'll see here is I'm going to play this little clip, and this is a map of the San Francisco airport, and you'll see on the right, I'm turning on and off the labels. This is in the visualization properties, so that's a configuration, but I've added a command right on my dashboard where I can turn on and off the labels as well from an IronPython script. So it's not really doing anything with the data. You can do some light things with the data that are not like calculation heavy, but it's mostly just for controlling the Spotfire application and client. Now, a data function. So at the highest level, quite simply, a data function is it's a function on your data, meaning that you have input data coming in. The function will perform some calculations, wrangling, some type of operations on your data, and then you get an output. And in Spotfire, you can read from data tables, columns, document properties, table properties, column properties, different property values. You can subset that data with filters and markings, and then you can output that to properties, columns, and data tables as well. This is all very dynamic. So the way that this looks, just to give you a quick view, I'm going to stop the video so you can see the whole screen here. So these are patients in Montreal, and I want to set up some clinics. So I've created a data function that will optimize the location of these clinics. I can select the data from a marking. I can adjust things like the number of clinics at the top right, And that will, that's a parameter I can change. And then I can also reselect new data. So I can filter things, I can change input variables, I can change the data that's coming in through markings. So I have a script, this one's actually an R script running in TERR, that's running on my data every time I interact with my dashboard. So it's not just a one-time thing. If I wanted to run just once and then just have static results, that's fine. And that's actually what we're gonna do today. But it's a fully interactive, immersive experience. It's probably my favorite feature in Spotfire. So with data functions that you're going to be doing kind of advanced calculations with, you can do them with open source R, you can do a Python, Matlab, SAS, KNIME, cloud services we've shown in the past, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. Most of you have probably used it with TERR, the TIBCO Enterprise Runtime for R, and we also have it with TIBCO Data Science. So last slide here before I go into the demo, a brief history of Python and Spotfire. So in 2017, we started talking about using Python and R. It's a package with TERR. So it's actually an R package where you're running R and you're running Python inside of R. So let me actually turn my screen back. So yeah, so Python and R is where you're running R and then you have Python running inside of R. And this was kind of a way to get some basic Python things done through TERR and Spotfire. There are a lot of limitations with it. You can't do some higher order functions, Lambda functions, mapping objects aren't available, different things like that. So it was just like kind of the first step in this journey. Next, in 2018, we introduced the custom Python data function extension on the community. Vinod, who's on the call, is actually a lead developer in that. And this extension allowed full Python compatibility, but the extensions on the exchange are not supported by TIBCO. This was just kind of something to help you use more Python, but it wasn't something that we were necessarily constantly going to improve. We did, however, release a update in 2019. And then in 2020, Spotfire 10.7 is supposed to be out any day now. I think it's just in the legal review. It was the target of today's discussion. And 2020, Spotfire 10.7 has now introduced native Python in Spotfire. It will ship with Spotfire, just like TERR, and you can use it right out of the box. It's supported by TIBCO. It has advanced governance mechanisms, and that's what I'm going to go over today. All right. So let's see. Let's go ahead and get this started. All right. And I'm going to turn off my screen just so you guys, my camera, just so you guys can see my full screen here. All right, so I'm going to just show you very simple. First off, just the basics of how you get to this. So when you go to tools and register data functions, you'll now see under the dropdown Python script. And here, the only real difference is that in R script, you can put the packages here. In Python, you're just going to import your Python libraries, your Python packages right into the script. I'm just going to make this a dummy script, and I'm going to say x is equal to mpg times 2. So I'm going to just do something very simple. I have some vehicle data here with city fuel efficiency. I'm going to set my input parameters as mpg. I'm going to set this as a column. I'm going to hit all, and I'm going to hit OK. And then on my output, I'm going to add this as X, and I'm going to do this as a column. I'm going to hit OK. So this is all very similar to the TERR method that like you would do with any other TERR data function. So when I set this up, I'm going to hit Run, and I'm going to select from the column my vehicle data, and I'll go down and hit City Fuel Efficiency. And then on my output, I'm just going to make this a column that goes back to the vehicle data table with X. Okay. So I'll hit OK here. And close this. And now you can see this ran where I have city fuel efficiency. And this is the first column multiplied by 2. So this was all generated by Python. So that's the very basic part of using Python. Now you can do, let me see here. So I'm going to show something a little more sophisticated now. I have here set up, last night, I set up this Airbnb review sentiment with the help of one of my colleagues. We got some Airbnb review data and we did a sentiment analysis. And I'll go into data and data function properties, and you can see here in my script, this is my Spotfire, or my, sorry, not my Spotfire, my Python script in Spotfire. I'm importing NLTK library, NumPy, pandas. I'm bringing all of this in, and I'm importing namespaces I need. And just like any other data function, I have something that will handle input parameters and output parameters. For my inputs, I have I have the input text as a column, which is comments on the Airbnb reviews. I have the number of topics, which is set to a document property, and I can control that property with the slider here. And that's going to look at keywords in the comments, and I can set how many of these keyword topics to calculate. And then whether or not I want to lematize this, whether I want to group those words together in the calculation. And then the output, it's going to give me an estimated sentiment, and then the topic ID and the keywords. So quite simple. I'll hit close. And here, I mean, it's a quite big data set. So just to make things quicker, I'll like reduce the sample size, and let's just say like 12 of these. And so this will compute, and you can see the individual reviews, the comments. Give this a couple seconds, and it will generate the sentiments. Let's see. All right, so there it goes. All right, and then, you know, here in the sentiment overview, I have in Seattle, where I'm based, I have the review scores, the sentiments by month for each of these comments. I have the top neighborhoods, host response time. And one thing I want to point out is it's really cool that I really love this Spotfire AI recommendation. So I have these Airbnb reviews, and if I hit, you know, if I go to sentiment and I click this as my target, and I want to know what's predicting the sentiment from my data set, and I can see that review scores, the check-in score on reviews, having a good check-in is producing better sentiment. If the host is a super host, that's producing a better sentiment. If the host has good communication, if they rated communication high, that's producing higher sentiment. So we're already seeing you know, Python working together with the AI recommendations and giving me value on what is producing the better reviews across this data, this Airbnb data. And another thing that's just really cool and I love is that, I mean, with these data functions, you can combine them with other data functions in other languages. So what I have here is I'll hit Ballard, and what this is going to do is run a TERR data function. So let me turn off the Airbnb reviews. So this is just create a heat map. We've shown this in the past. Oops, where'd it go? We've shown this in the past. There's a heat map of those review scores, and that's actually in data function properties. That's actually a TERR script. So I have R and Python running together on my data, all in the same application, all in the same interface. So whether you're an R or Python expert or both, you have full flexibility here. Now, the next parts to show are how to install the packages and how this environment works. So, I mean, the data function setup is fairly straightforward, especially if you're already familiar with it. But there are new options here. So if I go to options and I go down to data functions, you can use, so Spotfire automatic, let me turn on my camera again here because I'll be talking for a second. So Spotfire uses, it ships with a local TERR installation. You might have TERR on your Spotfire server environment, but it also has a local TERR environment. And it's now going to ship with a local Python environment. So in the past, if you were using R, open source R and TERR, they're two separate engines. Spotfire is using TERR, and you could use RStudio or other IDEs with TERR or open source R as your engine. So it's kind of similar with Python. So you can have as many Python environments as you want on your personal machine, on your local machine, Spotfire is going to use the Python 3.7.4 by default, and that's what it's shipping with the installation. And I'm going to show you where that is in a second. You can also point it to your own personal Python environments if you're using different versions of Python or different libraries or what have you. You can point it there, but we're going to recommend that you use the default Python engine that ships with Spotfire, and this will ensure that other analysts at your organizations are using the same version of Python, and you'll have full compatibility when you're sharing analysis. So that's my recommendation personally. Now, let's see here. Let's go into how do we install Python packages. All right. So when you go into your Spotfire installation, again, Spotfire 10.7 is coming out any day. I'm running a portable version right now, not the full version. You will have the analyst client installed. It'll probably be on your C drive and program files. And you'll get to your Spotfire installation folder, and you need to go to modules, and you'll see a Python interpreter. This is what's shipping with Spotfire now. And once you get inside here, this is pretty much the same as any Python directory if you're already using Python engines on your computer. There's really no difference. So you can go into Python, and then you'll see the Python engine here. And you can go into lib, and then you go down to site packages. And this is all the different packages I've installed in this landing zone of this Python environment. So let's see here. So with TERR, you have TERR tools where you can go to package management and you can load these CRAN lists and these packages. Right now, we don't have that for Python. Is on the roadmap. Keep an eye out for it. For now, just to kind of get you guys working with Python, it's shipped without that package management system, but you can just install the packages yourself. So what you would do is you go into command prompt on Windows, and you just need to change the directory, CD, and then you point it to your Python interpreter. So hit enter and point it there. And then you can just use, if you're familiar with Python, you might know the pip install method. Let me widen this here a little bit. So you're using, point to your Python executable, -m, pip install, and then whatever package you want to install. I've already installed TensorFlow, but I'll just hit enter here. So it's saying it's already installed. Once you install that, then that will land right here in your Spotfire installation folder and site packages. If you want to use your own personal Python engine that you're using separately, those packages will be available in Spotfire, but you're essentially in two separate environments at that point. So just keep that in mind. Now, the other big advantage of this new Python, native Python capability is the ability for governance mechanisms. So where are we? Let me show this here. Sorry, let me go ahead. All right, so if you have a lot of packages that you want your whole organization to have by default, you can create a requirements.txt file, which is a standard Python process. And then you can create an SPK with that. And from the administrator, from the Spotfire server, the administrator can deploy that to all the analysts. So the process is pretty simple. I don't have a Spotfire server set up, but I'll just show you kind of what this looks like. So you have the requirements, and you can set the packages that you want, the package version number. You say this as a text file, and then Spotfire ships with a Spotfire SPK builder, and that SPK is just Spotfire package. And then in your, let's see, environments, let's see here. Let me just go to my CSM library. Let me log in over here. So if you're not familiar with deploying packages, this is more of an administration function, but it's it's quite simple, just showing you quickly. If you have an SPK, you build the SPK, you can add that to, you go to deployments and packages, you can add that SPK, you just load it, and then you hit validate area and save area, and that's it. It's a really quick process. So really just takes a few seconds. If you are building these SPKs, know that you can only have one deployed at a time. So it has to be a complete list. And so if you're adding new packages in, you need to append that and regenerate a new SPK and use one SPK at a time. This is all going to be in the documentation on how you can version control and maintain this type of stuff. All right, so we got a few minutes left before we just go to a live Q&A. Today I talked about the data functions and the native Python capability, full functionality with Python, compatible in Spotfire 10.7 and above, governable, officially supported. Now, for those of you that are not on 10.7 or above, first of all, I'll point out API scripting is available on all the versions of Python, or all the versions of Spotfire. But as far as data functions go, for those of you that are not on 10.7 and above, there is a Python via TERR method that was again introduced a couple years ago. That's compatible with TERR or with Spotfire 7.0 and above, as far as I know, and it's compatible with TERR. Since it's running through TERR and R, it is actually officially supported. Now, what that means, officially supported, is that the support team, the TIBCO Spotfire support team, will take your support case, but there are limitations in the third-party capabilities of using Python and R. And so if Python and R can't do something, it doesn't mean that we can fix that. It's a third-party component. We're just going to look at making sure that Spotfire is working correctly with that third-party component. Now, the Python extension you can find on the TIBCO Exchange. Colin Gray showed that in the past with the cloud services Dr. Spotfire session. That's compatible in Spotfire 7.13 and above. You can technically use that with Spotfire 7 side by side with native Python, but we're recommending once you get to 10.7 to just go ahead and use a native Python. That's going to be the way we move forward. Everything else will slowly become obsolete. So a quick, kind of matrix of which method should I use. If you're on 7.12 and below, the applicable versions of Spotfire are, kind of the Python via TERR methods. You can import and export data functions and supported by TIBCO. The Python extension is fully compatible with Python. So you get more capabilities, but it's not necessarily supported. And then the native Python is what we have today or soon this week as soon as 10.7 is released. All right, the packages that are included with Python 10 or Spotfire 10.7, these are the packages that are included. Spotfire ships with Python 3.7.4. These are a lot of the packages that are required for Spotfire and Python to work together. So you don't need to worry about installing those. Already showed that. Putting this on the screen for those of you watching recording, if you want to pause it, if you want to have these commands for the command prompt. I also want to point out that there is this line. You may get something in the Python interpreter that tells you need to have setup tools installed. You shouldn't have that, but if it does come up, just run this line here, and that will have setup tools installed in your Python environment so you can install new packages. And then this is the line for creating the SPK file. So you just put SPK packages, -- analyst, the path where you want to write the SPK to, and the path of your requirements text. Last note is learning R and Python. I like DataCamp as a good starting point. There's lots of resources out there. You can find these for free. These have mobile apps as well, so you can do them on the go. The session recording, again, will be on YouTube within the next 24 to 48 hours. Make sure you catch it there. And next time, I'm going to be doing streaming visualization tips and tricks. So that should be a lot of fun. Make sure you guys join that one. It'll be on February 4th, the first Tuesday of February. So I'm going to go ahead and end the recording now. Guys, make sure you join in if you want to ask questions. We're going to switch to the live Q&A part.